I would like to welcome us all to today's seminar, identifying and looking at the challenges in the Western ports in Nigeria. We know that the ports take care of both vessel clearance and cargo clearance. And in fact, there can be no cargo without vessels arriving. We know that really it should be the whole process that we're looking at. So we thank you very much for attending today. With us today as panelists, we have Mr. Martin Benderson, all the way from Denmark, and he's with the Maritime Anti-Corruption Network that is represented in Nigeria by the Convention on Business Integrity. Mr. Benderson, you're welcome.
Thank you, Soji. I'm very glad to be on the call.
Yeah, thank you. We have Mr. Michael Osho from Platinum Shipping, who is representing the views of the users of the ports, because we're interested in all those who have cargoes or vessels going in and out of the ports and who experience firsthand the effectiveness and efficiency of our ports. We're also, you're very welcome, Mr. Osho. Yeah. We also have Deputy Comptroller Nadi of the Nigeria Customs Service with us this morning. Okay, he's just rejoining. So we have Deputy Comptroller Dera Nadi of the Nigerian Customs Service. He's with us this morning. You're welcome, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. And we have, I believe, Mrs. Olotu, who is the ports manager from the Nigeria Ports Authority. I think that her connection dropped and she may not have reconnected. I don't know if Mrs. Olotu is back with us.
Not yet. We're trying to connect her back. She's having issues, yes.
Okay.
That's what I was working on all this while.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much indeed. Okay. So I think without much further ado, we should kick off, but maybe we should kick off with some comments from the Maritime Anti-Corruption Network. If we can understand their interest in Nigeria and what has been happening so far. Maybe this would be a good place for us to begin.
Right, thank you very much, Soji. I hope you can hear me well. First of all, thanks to all the panelists for joining today. I think this will be an interesting discussion. Let me start by saying a few words about myself and the Maritime Anti-Corruption Network, for those of you who have not heard of this organization before. So my name is Martin Benderson, and I'm the head of collective action and partnerships for the Maritime Anti-Corruption Network, or the MACN. The MACN is a private sector initiative in the maritime industry that was formalized back in 2011 by a group of companies from the industry who wanted to eliminate corruption in the maritime industry. So a quite ambitious mission of this organization. Since we started in 2011, we have grown quite rapidly, and we now have 130 members consisting of companies from throughout the supply chain in the maritime industry. This is important to us because that means we have some leverage. We cover about 30% of the global tonnage in our membership. And if you look at, for example, just the container traffic segment, we have about 70% of the companies from the container segment represented. And we work with collective action, and that means essentially that we work with our members to eliminate corruption in the company and in the supply chain by improving compliance standard in the industry, but also working in the external operating environment. And by that, I mean the ports, where ships go in and out and cargo go in and out, and trying to enter into collaborations with both the private sector in the port, but also the public sector, to have joint collaborations and collective action projects with both the public and the private sector. Our philosophy has always been that we shouldn't name and shame and point fingers. We recognize that corruption is a shared challenge. You cannot solve it on your own. We all have issues in our backyard. And the key is really to collaborate and to take collective action here. Let me also then say a few words about Nigeria, and I shouldn't take up too much time here, but Nigeria has been our flagship collective action. This is our first collective action initiative starting back in 2012. We went into Nigeria firstly because we were welcomed by the stakeholders. We set up a collaboration with the UN and a range of government authorities, including the Customs Service and also the NPA at the time. We wanted to work with the industry to see how we can actually reduce corruption in the port. So this has been a multi-stakeholder project from the very beginning, and it has had various phases. I don't know if this is really the time to go into all the details of it, but we have had a successful collaboration with the Convention on Business Integrity and Mr. Apampa for a number of years now, where we are driving progress to improve the governance in the port in terms of making the procedures clearer, making the procedures more efficient, and making sure that the industry and also the public side are aware of the procedures and can follow them, and also to seek resolution when there are challenges arising and when procedures are not followed or not properly understood on either side of the table here. And we currently have a quite large project initiative in Nigeria with Mr. Pampa and his team, funded both by the Danish government and also by the Siemens Integrity Initiative, where we are working on both the vessel clearance side and the cargo clearance side to see how we can actually reduce corruption by working actively with the industry, the international maritime community, and also the national business community in Nigeria to help them take collective action. Secondly, the public sector is very important to us. So we're also actively engaging with all the public sector stakeholders to help them build capacity and support them, and also facilitate the dialogue between the private and public sector, like this call today. So, I mean, let me stop here. We can do a deep dive later on what we have achieved and so forth, to just allow some of the other participants here to take the floor. But thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Martin Benderson. Thank you for giving us the background. Maybe we start with the user, the view of users of the ports. And I see that, unfortunately, we have lost Deputy Comptroller again. There seem to be some challenges with connecting this morning. So Mr. Michael Osho from Platinum Shipping, please, can you give us an idea of what the challenges are using the Nigerian ports? What are the challenges in the Western ports? And maybe you can identify for us which ports are these Western ports that we have in Nigeria. We can't hear you, sir. You need to unmute.
Thank you very much, sir. Mr. Soji, I thank you for this opportunity to present from the perspective of the users. And as a shipping agent, we've been in the business for over 20 years. I've been in Platinum Shipping for over 10 years, and we have seen so many things happening in the industry. Some of the challenges, some of the things we see, like the international standard for port service access infrastructure, physical port infrastructure, integration, technology, and terminal handling charges. So I will speak on those.
Okay, we seem to be losing you, sir. Mr. Osho.
Yeah, we expect the government parastatals and synergy with the users is that there should be trade facilitation and efficient service delivery to help foster import and export transactions. And so in port access, we all know that it's a big challenge between the Tinkan port and the Apapa port. We have two ports, the Tinkan port and Apapa port, that bring in both container goods and vessel cargoes. So between those two ports, there is heavy difficulty in access. First of all, access of roads into the Apapa area, then access inside the port area. We found out that the arrangement or the organizations of trucks into the port is so mismanaged, and so we have gridlocks into the Apapa port, for trucks trying to either offload or unload their containers. Those are major challenges, and we feel that one of the ways we can resolve them is these trucks should be properly tracked. In Tema, Ghana port, there's an experience of electronic tracking of the in and out of both users and trucks. So if it's not your turn to come into the port, you stay in a truck hold, in a hold bay, and when it's time for you to come and either drop your container or pick up a good, you'll be allowed in. But the challenge is that we have people that have preference, or they have been able to get preference to bring their truck in, and so you have cluster of trucks, and because there is somebody can tip here or there is unorganized inflow of trucks into the port. The second area I want to look at is the physical port infrastructure. On the physical port infrastructure, we had a lot of expectations from the concessions that happened to terminal to concede part of the port to some terminal operators. But aside AP Mola, that has done some work to bring in some facilities, we have seen little or less from those other terminal operators, aside that they refurbished and repainted their buildings. And so we found out that there are berths that has not been dredged to allow heavy vessels to come in. Most times we bring in vessels on high tide so that we can come in and quickly discharge before the tides are low. And so that's a challenge that terminal operators need to look at and resolve. The third thing I want to look at is integration technology. We've discovered that there is technology in all these sectors, in all these areas. The custom has some technology, the MPA has technology on processing of their documents, but there is always a challenge within their processes. Sometimes you find there is a queue in the customs office, for instance. They want to process your custom assessment because the server is down. And so because server is down, the person processing it, there's a queue of over 50 people. Processing one person takes a process of between 18 to 20 minutes. And if you are number 40 on that queue, it's not likely you will get the chance for your assessment at that period. So you will now begin to, and anything extra could lead to demurrage of your container. And so that leads to agents trying to find gratifications to the operator or the staff to find time when the server is up to expedite their process in getting their work out. So the SOPs that have been created by these parastatals needs to be monitored to see that they are efficient enough to provide the initial intention for its creation. And so that's in the area of technology. Then we now talk of terminal handling, which also terminal charges and handling, which also comes close to what I just mentioned. We have your container has arrived, is due for inspection, but the inspecting officer says he's not ready to inspect your goods because he's busy. And so the longer he stays in trying to come back to you to assess, you are going to pay one extra day of rent or demurrage on your container being waiting for assessment. And these are the challenges around the operating environment that makes shipping agents and the cargo owners pay more because there is no audit or check on the SOPs, that is standard operating procedures that has been set and put in place. And this, we think that with the synergy of all the port users and the port authorities, we can come to a round table and find a way to make us more efficient and more productive at work. I think I should stop here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. If I may summarize what I'm hearing, you're saying that the physical port infrastructure, particularly the roads infrastructure, is a major issue in the Western ports. And
Yes,
here
sir.
you're talking about the Tinkan ports, Tinkan Island ports, and Apapa, and that even connecting between the two ports is a major issue. And that it's not only the roads outside the ports, it's also the gridlock inside the ports that you're referring to. Then you talked also about customs assessment, that very often they have challenges with technology, and you hear that the servers are down, and you can't do your customs assessment. But please correct me if I'm wrong. I believe that most of these things should have been done before even the cargo arrives. And that so long as there was no misdeclaration, you will not have a debit note, or you will not have any need to change any of the assessments. So how come we have so many people queuing up for so long to try to sort out their customs assessment? Please, can you clarify that for us?
Yeah. Well, the experience is usually with terminals. Like, for instance, after we have gotten the documents from customs and you are going to make payments, terminals have large bulk of transactions to attend to, and we find that very uncomfortable, because some of us have to go and come back and go and come back, and it could be frustrating.
Okay, so this is not customs assessment then. This is to pay terminal charges.
Yes, terminal charges. I'm sorry for the mix up.
Oh, okay. So it's to pay terminal charges. So I'm just trying to locate where in the chain the challenge is. So, and then at that stage, people are under pressure to make facilitation payments.
Yes, sir.
Because otherwise, if you pick a number that day and you're number 40, and it takes round about 18 to 20 minutes to process one person, you will find out that you can't even be attended to that day.
Yes.
So people end up paying some money in order to fast track their business through the ports.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then you also mentioned the standard operating procedures put forward by the agencies at the ports, that it lacks efficiency, that there are areas in it that needs to be improved.
Yes, sir.
In order to improve efficiency.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Maybe at this time we should give opportunity to the landlord of the ports to make a comment on this. I hope, Mrs. Olotu, you're very welcome. I hope you were
Thank
able
you
to
very much.
share a summary of what
Yes.
Mr. Osho had talked about. So
Yes.
please, you're welcome. Over
Thank
to
you.
you.
Thank you very much. Good morning, all. And pardon the initial hiccups. I was able to pick a couple of issues raised through a GM Legal, who actually connected via phone call. I could actually pick most of the things he said. Now, I'm going to take it one after the other. And I'm going to start from the point of the terminal upgrades that he mentioned. Yes, the ports were concessioned about 2006, and there were terms of references for all the terminals as to what we were expected to put in place. And I can tell you that as we speak, the management of Nigerian Port Authority has commenced a review process of the entire agreements, cutting across board, looking at gray areas, funny areas, areas of misunderstanding, and seeing how those ones can be resolved. So I don't want to dwell too much on the terminal upgrade, but I want to pick this from some of the things he has said concerning the terminals. He mentioned terminal handling charges. He mentioned issues at APMT. I want to say upfront that as at March, pre-COVID, yes, there were complaints about the number of cranes available at APMT, which of course affected the intake of trucks and loading capacity for boxes being dropped in the terminal. Part of the challenges then for the terminal was the fact that the vessels we are having now, they are bigger in sizes. Meanwhile, APMT has 4 berths within Lagos Port Complex in Apapa. Out of those berths, about that time, there was an accident at Bar 18, which resulted in a burnt crane by the quayside, and that automatically restricted APMT to only 3 berths out of the 4 berths available to them. The crane issue, I'm not holding brief for them. My MD actually paid a visit to the terminal, and they were put on the line, and as at April, May, this was resolved as they had additional cranes, which also improved their capacity to discharge vessels and load trucks. Now, let me now come to the infrastructure. As at the time, the port in Lagos, let's start with Lagos Complex, we are talking of as far back as 1959, going by our act, the access to the port has remained the same. Talking about infrastructure now. In the 70s, Singan Island Port was brought to bear to cushion the pressure on Lagos Port Complex. And if you are to access Apapa, you are talking of coming via Ikorodu Road, Western Avenue, Ijora Olopa. And if you are talking about Singan, you are talking of coming from the Mile 2 Oshodi Apapa Expressway axis. Now, there is a common point for both ports, which is around Liverpool. So meaning from Apapa, if you want to cross over to Tinkan, you can use that axis, and from Tinkan, you can use the same axis. But now, what do we have on ground? Presently, there are major road rehabilitation works ongoing in Lagos State, which I'm sure most people are aware of. Third Mainland Bridge is undergoing repairs. Spots at Marine Beach Bridge, which leads you into Apapa as we speak, is also ongoing rehabilitation and repairs, and we have been restrained to just one lane to serve an outbound traffic. So that means you have so many people making use of the same access, which is now limited. Don't also forget that outside the port, we have numerous tank farms in this same corridor. And you have tankers also trying to access the tank farms. The tankers are not coming to the port, they are going to the tank farms. But the tank farms are bordering the port community. So you have a whole lot of tankers, you have a whole lot of truckers, you have residents, you have port workers, port users, making use of the same corridor at the same time. Of course, without mincing words, we cannot rule out the fact that there will be issues. Now, what have we put in place to address some of these issues? I'm trying to just address them, raise the issue, and at the same time, address them. What have we put in place. Now we asked all the terminals, can you please give us your maximum daily intake of trucks? And APNC, being the major handler, came back and said they could take 600 trucks in a day. Meaning for APMT to operate optimally, they need to receive 600 trucks in a day. Where are these 600 trucks going to come from? Some are coming from the north, some are coming from Ogiri, some are coming from garages, parked around the port, outside the port. But everybody, mark my words, everybody is going to make use of that same corridor of Idora-Olopa and Marine Bridge. Now, MPA came up and said, we have a park, a terminal, which was taken over. It is called Lily Pond Terminal. It was taken over from the former owner, and it was offered as a transit truck park. Transit truck park. I want you to please mark my words, not a garage. Meaning, Lily Pond will be serviced by other garages and parks. For you to access Lily Pond, it means you are ready to come into the port. What is the location of Lily Pond? Lily Pond is just by Total Bridge, close to the same Marine Bridge that I mentioned. And for any truck that enters Lily Pond, when they now want to come into the port, they have to come out of Lily Pond, make a U-turn, and take like almost an hour to go turn at Idora-Olopa before they can face the port. The other available route leaves the Western Naval Command of Nigerian Navy. And for security reasons, the trucks are not allowed to make use of that corridor. But we are trying to engage them and see if we can just have a timetable and work around that. Now, talking about this extortion, I'm going to shy away from it. It is often said that security men in uniform, and Mr. Osho can please correct this. I make bold to say you cannot accuse any MPA personnel of collecting money for you to access the port. We are not charging a dime for any truck entering Lily Pond. Neither are we charging a dime for you to move from Lily Pond into the port. The only thing MPA is saying is this: we will not admit you into Lily Pond if you have not met the minimum safety standard requirements of the Nigerian Port Authority. And what do we mean by that? The truck must be duly registered with FRSC, and it must be certified to be in a good condition. We're all aware of all these cases of containers tipping off trucks, killing people. We are saying your 4 twist locks must be on your flatbed before we allow you to come in and pick any import. And if you are coming in with export or empty, all these other things must also be in place. Your cargo must be properly secured on your truck. Now, what do we have? When you have these people coming with empties and exports, Mr. Osho, I want you to please listen to what I'm about to say. Even when they have entered Lily Pond and they have been cleared to approach the port, when they get to Wharf Road, because they don't want to enter and drop that empty or export and go back without picking an import, they park along the roadside, shopping for customers, shopping for clients. And what is the negotiating power? I am already along Wharf Road. I'm close to the port, so it can actually use me. So if the man you have cleared to enter the port is willing to stay by the roadside until he gets somebody else that can give him a TDO to pick an import from the port. That is one. Secondly, some of them have issues with their importer or agent. They have not been fully paid. And you see them, even when you have cleared them either to come in or to go out, because they are waiting, they refuse to proceed. And they tell you, oh, I'm still waiting for my agent. I love one thing you raised about customs. Documentation are expected to be in place. And I'm yet to come across any custom officers, for as long as I've been here in RPC, that will not pass your truck or your container when your documents are in place. What we have oftentimes is that most of these people attempting to enter the port, the documentation process has not been concluded or completed. Now we have the presidential task team that have been saddled with the responsibility of clearing the roads. How do we work together. What we have said is this: when they leave Lily Pond, we have a call-up system in place. And what do we mean by the call-up system? When you enter Lily Pond, you are registered. And the port is aware that you are inside Lily Pond. Before you approach the port, we give the gate staff the notice we are about to clear trucks from Lily Pond. These are the trucks that have been cleared. As I speak, there is a WhatsApp platform open to anybody who cares to join. I am a member, my traffic manager is there, the head of security is there, all the major truck owners that are registered with us, they are there. The associations, they are there. So we are trying to bring up a transparent policy where we tell you these are the trucks coming into the, it is posted on that platform. And we tell you that they are good to go. If you have any objection, you raise it on that platform. And the people at the gate, they are also on that platform. So you have this synergy, but there is a bottleneck somewhere. And that place is Area B. Area B is a central location where any truck approaching the port from Lily Pond, from Western Avenue, there is no way you can access the port without passing through Area B. Mr. Ashok can portray this thing that I'm talking about. Because of the road repairs, you can no longer connect from Tinkan to Apapa. So what we have in place is if you are going to Tinkan, use the two axis. But if you are coming to Apapa, use this corridor. At Area B, as I speak, please, we have about 27 uniformed men there from different commands, covering different interests. When I say uniformed men, I'm not talking about customs, please. Customs, they're not there. I'm not talking of immigration. I'm talking of policemen. Now, the idea is at that spot, they should be able to help us in moving these trucks to the port. But oftentimes, for me, what I perceive, and I'm saying this now as port manager, I'm representing my managing director because I'm in charge of the port complex. That on its own is a problem. We have 27 uniformed men per shift. So in a day, you're talking of 54. And where you have 27 uniformed men at a go, you can imagine what will be happening at that spot. So sometimes some of these truckers get to that point. Even sometimes when they are cleared from Lily Pond, they are denied access. So the weapon we have been using at our end is this. If you like, go and pay 200, go and pay whatever they say they are paying. If you are not from Lily Pond and you are not being cleared by the port, when you get to Eleganza, where we are
Sorry, we seem to have lost Madam Olotu there. Okay. I think at this point, maybe I should summarize what I'm hearing because I'm hearing a very robust defense of the attempts by the Ports Authority to actually reduce the backlog of vehicles, trucks that are entering into the ports and coming out of the ports. I also hear the suggestion that a lot of the challenges is now as a result of other road users and also other authorities who happen to be in that area. So even though Ports Authority can clear you to come in, you will find a checkpoint with like 27 uniformed officers who can still at that point deny a vehicle from proceeding to the port. That you have some who get as far as Wharf Road and are really don't want to drop their containers, but want to get business to bring out a container as well because of the length of time it's taken them to get that far. And then they park along the road waiting for new business. There are some who are waiting for payment, who say they have not been paid by their agent, and therefore they're unwilling to proceed. We will come back to that, Mr. Osho, as soon as Mrs. Olutu is back online. But maybe we should go to customs, because there was the suggestion when you were speaking that standard operating procedures are not efficient, that the standard operating procedures may need to be reviewed and strengthened. So let's turn to Deputy Comptroller Nadi of the NCS. Perhaps you can shed some light on the standard operating procedures. We're not following what you're saying, sir. Apologies, sir. We're unable to make out what you're saying. Can anyone else hear the Deputy Comptroller?
No, I can't hear him.
It's breaking up. Perhaps if he turns off the video, perhaps that could improve the quality.
Maybe if you stop your video temporarily, sir, maybe.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear a bit better.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, much better.
Yes.
Is it okay now?
Yes.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, we can hear you, sir. Hello. Okay, in the meantime, while we're waiting to improve that connection, there was a question raised by a panelist. We'll come back to you now, Deputy Comptroller. We had a question. Please go on, sir.
Okay.
We suggest that you probably stop your video so that we can hear you better, sir.
Okay, we can off the video.
Yes, sir.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Much better.
Is it better now?
Yes.
Is it better now?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Okay, you have two devices, sir, and one of the devices is not so good. So it's switching between the two. So the internet access on one of the devices is not as good as the other one. If you use the one where you had your video, yes, this one, then the sound was better.
Okay. Off one. Let me put off one. Okay. Hello.
Please go on, sir.
Okay. I said is considered the critical infrastructure as we are concerned, and recognize that what we are trying to do is ensure that the compliance level in the port is the same across all boards. I've heard what the MPA said about the road. I'm not going to talk about that. What we are going to talk about is that managing trade in the port is actually an important aspect of custom operation. And we consider the Western port as very important because 70% or more of our revenue from the Western port. We have no SOP for all operators to operate on. We are introducing some reforms. Our nicest platform, that is the Nigerian Customs Service Information Management System, is supposed to capture the essence of everybody in the to participate in the team. So to that extent, almost all the port operators are hooked to the customs nicest platform. However, we also recognize that there is need for everybody to attain the same level of reform that has been done in customs for them to optimize this relationship. I know that since 2012, Maritime Anti-Corruption Network has been working with Nigerian Customs Service to achieve this. We've done a number of work with you, reducing, hello?
Please go on, we can hear you, sir.
Okay, we've done a number of reforms, reducing the number of sectors that used that are required to relieve cargo from the port. But you see that there are other critical infrastructure that we need to improve upon. Like Madam NPA said, right now we have just one access road into Tinkan Port, for instance, just one. And that access road is the same road that is used by traffic that is not commercial, everybody. It's very, very slow, and we believe that if it is improved upon very quickly, it will help a great deal. The issue of that trucks wait for documentations to come up. You cannot call up a truck or get your video when you've achieved some release.
Please, what is it? What is a TDO? What is TDO, sir? You are muted, sir. Please, can you unmute your mic, sir? Okay, perhaps we can return to you, Mr. Osho, in the meantime. Please, okay. Maybe you can explain to us what a TDO is. Yes.
TDO is terminal delivery order.
Terminal
delivery order.
Okay, thank you very much, sir.
And what it is used for is after release of cargo by customs, terminals issue that document as the final document for exit of the container.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, please, can we ask you, sir, about the standard operating procedures in the ports? Are these standard operating procedures being followed? And are they effective?
They are not very effective. They are not very effective in the sense that the port needs to optimize the Nigerian Customs Service single window launched. Several operations are still manual, and some of the laws in the system overlap. And there are also some cases where issues that should be for regulatory concern are now translated to revenue concern. So we should also define that rules that are supposed to be regulatory should remain regulatory. Rules that should be revenue should remain revenue. And when you have both, the law should be clear and concise about it. And sometimes too, you have use of poor interpretation of government policy. This is all as a result of limited capacity part of some of the operators, and some because there are ambiguities that are not properly interpreted. Every government policy is aimed to meet either national interest or bilateral or multilateral interest for the country. Our reaction to those policies are sometimes too personal, speaking in terms of stakeholders in the industry. And until we harmonize our relation with those policies and seek proper interpretation, we cannot achieve optimal standard operational procedure. It becomes a crowd war where you towards the same direction, but your legs walk in different directions.
Okay, are we saying that there's a lot of latitude at the moment for people to interpret the laws by themselves? I mean, officials who are supposed to implement these standard operating procedures, the operating procedures, are they too vague at the moment, allowing a lot of discretion?
I wouldn't say that too vague. I will say that the capacity of the stakeholders in the industry to interpret certain policies. I will give you an example. If CBN, Ministry of Finance, issue a guideline, either for restriction of a particular product or on forex access to such product, or for tariff ratings for that, the way stakeholders will react to it most of the time differ. It differs in the sense that sometimes people tend to react differently. I will give you an instance. When VAT was increased from 5% to 7.5%, most stakeholders will tell you that they were not informed, and some will say, oh, we've already issued quotations, the communication and contact with our stakeholders, and now we have to change. These are the lapses that encourage some personal discretions in the system, which is not required. So sometimes we need to give room for policy to be properly understood, but we also need to ensure minimum standard for certain operators, for them to understand what really obtains, particularly when government issues particular guideline, and see it as either a national from national point of national interest, or see it from point of global interest for the nation.
Okay, so what I'm hearing from you, sir, is that it's not that these standard operating procedures are not there, but some things are missing. For example, the need for a customs single window to be launched, which allows most of the documentation and the processes to be done online. Did I understand that correctly, sir?
Sir, without like I said earlier, the Nigerian Customs Service NICIS platform is a sort of single window, because our trade hub, our NICIS platform, all the are connected to it. regulatory are connected on sort of single window. However, there's still room to improve on it. So we shouldn't say that single window at all. Our communication with stakeholders is based on that. Hello? Hello?
Yes, we hear you now. Yeah, we hear you now.
Communication with freight forwarders and agents, for instance, is electronic most of the time. Our communication with NAFDAC, SON, NDLEA, Standard Organization of Nigeria, Copyright Commission, on behalf of customs is online. Our communication with shipping we say that there is some element of single window, though there is still room for improvement on a larger scale. What we need to do is to insist that when people complain about the industry, it should be based on generational interest. So the policies that we issued out of that as a result of such complaint should be one that will actually address individual and personal interest.
Okay, we're struggling to hear you very clearly, sir. But what I think I heard is that sometimes the complaints made by users in reaction to something that has been brought in by government leads to some changes in policy, but for the interest of those users. And it doesn't always consider the larger interest. I think this is what I'm making.
Exactly.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much, sir. Maybe I'll invite Mrs. Olotu to quickly complete the statement she was making before the connection dropped. You're welcome back.
Yes. Thank you very much, Mr. Kwankwa. Sorry for the network issues. So what I was just trying to establish back then was the fact that when we talk of all these issues along the road, there is that place of Area B. I'm emphasizing it because it's a critical hotspot for trucks accessing the port. But the SOPs that Nigerian Port Authorities Management has put in place is that for trucks coming into the port, in partnership with APMT especially, since they handle the highest volume of these trucks coming in, we are beginning to explore other modes. We are not restricting ourselves to the road. Now we are having movement via rail. We also have movement via badges. And I can say that as of last week, the report we are moving almost 50 to 60% via badges now of the volume we normally handle via road. Yes, there are cost implications, and we are trying to engage the badge operators to ensure that they do not impose very high charges now that people are trying to make use of them. But I believe that when these roads are properly put in place and fully rehabilitated, we should have some sort of leverage. But we are still appealing to truckers, to importers, to agents. When you are approaching the port, can you please ensure that you are good to go on all sides? APMT came, I think the day before yesterday, trying to expand and give them this opportunity that if you are bringing in export or empty, APMT can generate for you laden containers already dropped in the terminal awaiting evacuation, so that it becomes like a one-stop shop where importers can say, okay, these are the trucks bringing in empties or exports. I want to make use of any one of them to take out my own import, which is ready to go. We are working on that, and we are hoping to fine-tune this between maybe next week. We should have that offer. But meanwhile, what are we saying? Before you come to the port, please apply to the port. I am coming. Indicate your truck number. Indicate your container number. If it is empty, state. If it is export, because of the federal government policy on exports, we are giving them a special window. We do not hold them at all. There is a special provision for them. We have given them days that they can come to Lily Pond, and once they enter Lily Pond that same day or within 24 hours, they are moved into the port. They must also tell us the type of export you are carrying, because some are perishable, others are not perishable. So the ones that are perishable, we want to put a mechanism in place that we can fast track the movement of such, so that the goods can still get across in good condition without any issues. And if we have these security agencies on the road, LASMA is there for Lagos State. We all know them. FRSC is there for the federal government of Nigeria. And I believe in partnership with the Port Security Department, we can come together. Yes, the presidential task team, they are presently on ground. Though I think I learned they were given a timeline. I wouldn't know when that is going to last. But by the time they leave, there are agencies in place that can help us facilitate the movement. Ours is port management. These other people are to manage the road. So I do not want to see a situation where a truck driver is stopped by a policeman to check documents. For what? What are you checking? Just is to ensure that the road is free for these trucks to move into the port. And the moment we have told you that, oh, these ones are good to go, kindly allow them passage, so that when all these interests are removed, then we wouldn't have the complaints that Mr. Ocho has brought up here, that people have been extorted. We have had complaints to us. They have even backed some up with receipts. I'm not going to deny that. They backed it up with receipts. Their trucks were bounded, payments were made to one company. We did a report to our managing director, and she has taken it up. We are equally appealing through the office of the IG. I know my MD has taken that up too. But can we have a situation where that port of Area B can be, because the port has a commissioner of police, please. There is a commissioner of police for Port Authority Police Command. His jurisdiction covers Lily Pond, but his jurisdiction does not cover the bridge directly facing Lily Pond. His jurisdiction does not cover Area B, which is between Lily Pond and the port, meaning for whatever transpires between Lily Pond and Area B, there is nothing the Commissioner of Police for Port Authority can do. It is when they pass that and they now get to Eleganza, it can take over again. Can we have this harmony of command so that we don't have all these interests, parties, representing whatever? So if there is this harmony of command from Lily Pond to the port, we want to believe that the passage of trucks will be done at an optimal level. And for my brothers on Mr. Ocho's side, if you have complaints, please come alongside. That platform is open to everybody. And anything you bring up there, we will also address it. There is multiplicity of associations and unions with diverse interests too. But ours is, we do not want to be on anybody's side. If you are if you are an important stakeholder, we bring you on board and you are free to share your views and opinion there, and we'll take it. So for us at NPA, what step are we also taking? We are ensuring that we have a high turnover of staff posted to Lily Pond and the gate. Because, sometimes familiarity does not only breed content, it also breeds compromise. So we try to ensure that nobody is allowed to overstay at a particular bit, so that all the things we have put in place, especially under these COVID-19 protocols, they are all observed. We have the number of trucks that we can handle in Lily Pond. We have the number of trucks that can be on the road at a time. And we are still trying to see how we now connect with the Nupeng. Because like I said earlier, it is the same corridor that trucks coming to the port are using, that tankers going to the tank farms are also using. So let me just pause here and we continue the discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Osho. We will give you a chance, but I want to go back to the Deputy Comptroller and ask, sir, that when we had a similar discussion like this with the Eastern ports, we had a user talking about facilitation payments also in the process of customs clearance. And the comptroller for Area 1 in Port Harcourt insisted that the problem was lack of compliance on the part of the importer, lack of compliance with standard procedures on the part of the exporter. And that if they had followed the right thing, then they really have no business interfacing with customs at the ports because they would have paid the right duty. There'll be no need for anyone to start levying them, giving them a new debit notes if they had paid the right thing all along, if they had declared the right content in the goods. So the question is, what is it really that is leading to the perceptions of corruption in the ports, especially in the Western ports, if all of these procedures are actually in place, which is why we're asking about the standard operating procedures? What is making these things still a challenge? If everybody knows, or is it that there are also some other agencies involved who are not being compliant or who are taking advantage of the lack of compliance? Please, can you just shed some light on this for us?
Okay, thank you very much. And I hope this time you hear me clearly. Actually, lack of adherence to compliance and laid down rules fuels corruption in the system. Sometimes we tend to think that corruption is part of we do right context of exchange of cash only or for facilitation. Let me state something. From inception, I told you I wanted to say something. You know, we have been advocating, for instance, that lack of scanners in the port is a major challenge and hindrance to facilitation of cargo clearance. Let me tell you something. If you import cargo with documents that are not compliant to trade, and we scan that cargo, and the density of that cargo or the image produced by that cargo shows that there is a discrepancy, that cargo will still be subjected to a physical examination. That makes double handling. That we are still running away from physical examination. You now scan, and after scanning, you still go back again because there is discrepancy found to still physically examine that same container. What does that show you? It shows that if from inception, from the supply chain documentation and then what is imported is correct, there wouldn't have been that second intervention on that particular cargo. Now, why do people, the question then is, why do people not want to comply? I said it earlier. Sometimes it's because they misunderstand policies. Sometimes it's also because those policies, they tend to think that it is against their business interest. I will give you a typical example. There are certain products that are not prohibited for importation by customs, for instance. But you have been told that those particular products cannot access Forex for their importation. What do you think a businessman will do? He tries to maneuver his way to either label those particular products against the name of the particular one that can access Forex, to enable him access Forex. So the supply chain gets compromised from inception, from documentation. And when such cargo arrives Nigeria, of course, customs is going to have issues. The manifest is going to have issues. The Form M is going to have issues. There are lots of complications that will now be involved. This is where the challenge comes in. And then, because there are overlapping functions here, somebody is going to talk about the status of that cargo from manifest level. Somebody is going to talk about the status of that cargo from regulatory viewpoint. Somebody is going to talk about the status of that cargo from revenue point of view. Even someone is going to talk about it from the issue of trade data supplied internationally to Nigeria. So somebody claims that he is importing, for instance, a microphone. Whereas that same container, because of a particular policy,
he puts in a telephone. So you see that the trade data is already distorted, even from international community. So what we will advocate is that, one, correct interpretation of policies. Two, simplification of those policies. Three, education and capacity building for stakeholders to understand and see themselves as partners with government. Interpretation of policy is very important. I heard what Mrs. Oloti just said, that sometimes there are overlapping functions. So many interventions on a particular cargo. And I have said it, if you are regulatory, remain a regulatory agency. If you are a revenue collecting agency, remain a revenue collecting agency. Don't come and join the two. You want to collect revenue, you want to regulate. However, if government says you should also collect revenue and regulate, of course, you should do that. You should do that. So sometimes I want the stakeholders to address the freight forwarders and agents. If you think that a particular government policy does not favor you, you are, after all, an advocacy group. You can approach the National Assembly and request that such policies should change rather than cut corners. I'm not saying they cut corners, please. I'm just saying it from the point of view of national interest. Let me stop at this point and mention that until we get the supply chain right from the point of importation, then we are not getting it right in compliance. I will pause at this point and listen to others.
I will come to you now, Mr. Osho. Would there be a collaboration between country of origin and destination on exchange of this documentation, or what do we need to do in order to facilitate? Because I thought this is part of what the single window is supposed to do. Remember, we started with pre-shipment inspection. Then we scrapped that in favor of destination inspection. Do we now need both, or what exactly, how do we solve this problem? Mr. Osho.
Yeah, thank you, sir. I think it has to be a double-edged sword, if I must use that word, that from the bills of lading and documents coming from abroad, all agencies, like what we do is that our manifest, our bills of lading, and every other details of the vessel is handed to the customs, to the MPA, to the MASA, to all relevant agencies for them to have a pre-information of these vessels that are arriving. And as the vessel arrives at the port, these same agencies go on board to verify, starting from port health. Of course, they have to take the flag off before any other agency comes on. Then the customs breaks the bulk, access the cargo, and other agencies come. They check the validation of the commodity that comes in. They check the quantity that also is being declared, so that there is no under declaration of this process. So for me, there is already, for that process, the agencies and the shipping agents have an agreement on how on that process. So it's even very difficult to under declare or to bring in a cargo that is wrong. I think where the custom Mr. Nandi is talking about, I think it's an understanding of the importer to get a clarification with the customs first before he goes and brings his goods. If he's supposed to bring in telephone, as he said, and there is no forex for that, what are the windows available for him to access to meet up with his importation? And if he cannot handle it, then he has to drop it. So that area is not being, that communication gap is what is the problem is. Because when somebody feels that I will find a way around it and I will settle some people, even if you, that's why even when you settle the first line of people you claim to settle, you can't settle all through. And so shipments must be sorted out from the first instance with the I believe the customs are open for people to relate with and to get clarification on their.
Okay, sir. So if we come back to you, Deputy Controller.
One of the things about freight forwarders.
Oh, sorry, you haven't finished. Yeah. Please
is
go
that
on.
they don't communicate with the customs clearly. So if you have issues, communicate clearly, and I think that area will be sorted. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Mr. Osho. Yes, Deputy Controller, sir.
Okay, I thank Mr. Osho for this enlightenment. I think he has a clear understanding, and I wish every other stakeholder in his group understands this customs perspective the way he too understands it. Yes, a clearing agent is what he is called, an agent to a principal. Most of the time, when you give a bill of lading to a clearing agent, the clearing agent is handling what we call to contain. He's just believing what is written on the document. He is not the one that loaded the cargo. He's not the one that issued the manifest information. So he too is what the document given to him. So most of the time, he may not even understand that what is actually inside the container is different from what is on the document that he is handling. So sometimes you don't need to blame the freight forwarder himself. That's why I said that this thing should be addressed from the way, from the point export in the other Nigeria. Let me give you an instance. I like what he said, that people should interface with customs. Under WTO, World Trade Organization or Organization Trade Facilitation Agreement, and even under customs law, there is something we call advanced ruling. Advanced ruling means that you approach customs to ask questions about a particular item that you want to import. Ask questions about the status of that particular cargo. Is it prohibited? Is it not prohibited? Ask questions about that particular cargo, about the tariff and the HS code. Ask about the duty for that particular item. Custom is committed to that particular item if they give you that information. Once they give information and you got that information, they are committed to oblige you once that cargo arrives in Nigeria. But most of the time, people take advantage of this because law provision exists. That's why I said there's a room for capacity building in them. If you also think that every year, government will announce at the beginning of the year guidelines for trade. That is an opportunity for every trader to go back and say, okay, this particular guideline is not favorable to us. Approach the National Assembly or government to say, okay, do this for us, change this particular one. But if you keep quiet and then approach the implementers of this policy, it becomes a misnomer. Because my role is to implement policy and give government feedback from whatever outcome while implementing that policy brings up. I don't formulate the policy for government. My role as customs is to implement whatever policy government has given out. And then every quarter, every half year, and every year, give feedback to government. For instance, I've mentioned now that forest policy is affecting trade. I believe that several government people are listening in. And the moment they've had me, it is left for them to also see if there will be a review to accommodate the interest of majority of Nigerians who are trying to circumvent this same policy. Perhaps if government also thinks that, oh, the policy should be sustained, then there should also be provision for enlightenment on how the benefactors, the beneficiaries of such policy should be able to cope with whatever outcome that comes from. Okay, part of what we are going to do in future under MACN.
We're not hearing you.
Not favorable.
Okay,
hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Yes, I said that perhaps the next webinar that you are going to organize is going to address maritime.
We didn't hear that.
Perhaps.
Maritime.
Sorry.
What?
I said that perhaps the next webinar we are going to organize, you are going to organize, will address issues of policy for maritime industry.
Okay.
That is, you will get Ministry of Finance, you will of Trade and Invest and Industries, Trade and Investment to come in and also listen to people like Mr. Osho, and then bring perhaps one or two import to about affect a business. So that to government policy, we have limited capacity on what we can do for these operators. Listen, panelists, please.
Okay, well, thank you very much. We're coming towards a close. There are two questions for customs. Somebody called Kenneth Jukpo is asking, Deputy Controller, sir, customs previously organized trainings for freight forwarders via several channels, but this has been jettisoned. The challenge of non-compliance is real and has far-reaching consequences, but there is a need for awareness on these consequences.
Okay. Now? Hello? Can I answer now?
Did you hear the question, sir?
Custom used to organize things.
More
for that custom used to organize training for stakeholders, but the training has been stopped.
Yes.
The past as the time that having a certificate from such training was considered a condition for issuance of license to you or renewal of your license. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Yes. And for some of our stakeholders, we have taken some of them to World Customs Organization. We have training rooms where we train them through. In fact, during the port reform of 2006, that was when we established not just bringing the training from the training school at Ikeja, we brought it close to the port by opening training centers. If you go to the CPC, the Custom Processing Center, in Tinkan Port, there is a training room in the custom, in the Tinkan, in the processing center. In fact,
okay.
To understand the terminologies.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
What I hear very clearly is that you have the facilities. Training used to be a precondition to issuance of licenses. Presumably, it is no more so. The users are asking that we should continue to have engagements with customs, and customs still has these facilities. So perhaps it is still possible, even if it is not organized by customs, to have these interactive sessions with the users. So I think in the time that is left, just to mention quickly that we polled the participants, asking them that from what they have heard so far, what is the main challenge in improving effectiveness and efficiency in Nigeria's western ports? And they were given multiple choice answers. Is it compliance with standard processes and documentation? Is it equipment and infrastructure? Is it better processes like single window and technology? Is it maritime security and the police? Or is it all of the above? 74% of the audience feel that the problems are all of the above. That we have to fix compliance with standards and processes and documentation. We have to improve equipment and infrastructure. We need better processes like technology and the single window. We need maritime security and to improve the role of the police in order to improve effectiveness and efficiency in our ports. We have also had quite a lot of discussions about what the challenges are. In the time we have left, half a minute now to each of the participants, and we will end with the Maritime Anti-Corruption Network. Maybe you can tell us, in your words, what is the way forward from here? Is there room for collective action? Is there room for all stakeholders to come together to try to fix? Because it seems like this problem is more than one agency. It looks like something that requires everybody to do something. Can we comment on the possibility for collective action in doing this? Maybe we start with Mrs. Olotu.
Thank you very much. For me, I think the first thing we need to bring to bear is transparency across the board. From the side of the importer, from the side of the agent, from the side of the agencies. Whatever the requirements are, let there be a transparent platform where everybody knows what is expected of them. And we should also have an avenue for complaints to be received and processed. Whatever costs anybody is expending in the port, it adds up to the average Nigerian outside there. So we shouldn't think it does not concern us. It concerns all of us. So let's come together and identify whatever the challenges are and be bold enough. If you say they are collecting money from you, please name and shame. Then we can move forward. But when we keep it quiet, or occasionally we just throw spanners up, no, let's be bold with our discoveries. And I believe all the government agencies are represented will also give feedbacks to their principals, and steps will be taken to address the issues that have been brought up. For us at the Nigerian Ports Authority, we keep placing premium on professionalism, and we'll give it our best shot to ensure that our ports are cheap and our ports are run effectively. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Deputy Comptroller, any final words? Yes. Please go ahead,
Hello?
sir.
Okay,
yes, go ahead.
For me, my final word is this: we should simplify our trade policy. We should also encourage integrity-based supply chain. And we should also ensure that there's application of standard operational procedure. So these three things simplify professionals, like Mr. Olotu said, into the system. So deployment of manpower in this should be based on competence and should be improved infrastructure. But don't forget what I said earlier. Improved infrastructure. If you have and ensure it updates itself through reforms. But finally, before I leave, let me say something. I've learned one lesson from the seaports here. And that lesson is that it is not me versus them. It's not you, me. It's us versus the problems. So I think there should be a collective in time. Blessed.
Okay, Mr. Osho, do you want to also give us your final thoughts?
Yeah, my final thoughts. Number one is in line with Mr. Lutu, there should be continuous engagement of all port users and stakeholders. Continuous engagement. There should not be, because what we've seen is that MPA is coming up with policy, and customs is coming up with policies, and there's not enough engagement of the users. And so we need continuous engagement and carrying on of every port user on those decisions that will be made. And the second thing is the SOPs should be audited. I know they do a financial audit, but we should audit our SOPs and see that are they giving the desired efficiency per time on what is expected. And once that is done, I believe there'll be improvement. She mentioned the area of working on badges. I think if the badges and the badges and the rails, especially rails, picking rails, I would appreciate if rails can come directly from Lily Pond to the port. They don't have any business even coming on the roads and off. So we should try and take advantage of the rails and the badges more so that to reduce the traffic. And the 27 or 20, how many people that policemen will not have anything to eat or disturb anybody on the roadsides.
Okay, I will just announce these questions because we had questions for NPA about third-party sewage in Area 1, that the cost is too high for their operations. Then somebody talks about regulatory and compliance mapping guides. Mapping guides businesses to avoid legal and ethical wrong. In Nigeria, it is challenging to get a single point of information to gather regulatory and compliance mapping information for the ports. What is the government doing to automate and centralize data and compliance collation? So those are two questions that we have. So while we wait, we give Martin a chance to say something. We'll come back to Mrs. Olotu quickly and we will end there. Martin, yes.
Yes, first of all, thanks to all the participants for an interesting discussion here today. I think what stands out here is that we need to have these kind of conversations. We need to have these collaborations between the private and the public sector. It's clear that it's important that we share the understanding of procedures and regulations that apply during clearance. If we don't have the shared understanding, we will have challenges. So we have seen that in our initiative that working with awareness raising and training to make sure that the private sector really understands SOPs and new regulation is something that you can't underestimate. You just have to keep doing that. And I think it's also clear from this call today that awareness raising training on both the public and the private sector side is really key to make people actually adopt new practices and new behaviors and follow SOPs. That's for one. My second point is really just to say to all the businesses on the line and to urge you to join this collective action initiative. We've done this for a number of years, and we've seen that you can actually make things to the better by acting together. It's really hard to tackle these challenges on your own, especially when some are more systemic. So I encourage you to share your challenges with us. We have a survey we're going to be sharing where you can share your data and share your pain points and so on anonymously. That's really key for us to take this project forward as well. And also, I think there was a question here about compliance guides. We as the MACN have some level of tools that we can provide, and we're putting together a content hub online where you can also access checklists for primarily vessel clearance at the moment. But the ambition is really to also build that as a resource for the private sector to help you clear your goods and vessels in the port. But I'm very much looking forward to continuing this discussion with you on our next and forthcoming calls in the coming years. So thank you very much.
Okay, so Mrs. Olotu, if you feel able to respond to any of those questions, you can. Otherwise, we close here.
All right. On the third-party towage services, what we've had previously was a heavy subsidy from the side of the Nigerian Ports Authority, where what was being paid was not commensurate for the amount of money put into dredging the channel, maintaining the quays. So what management decided to do was to commission a third party to handle all these things, because by the provisions of our act, we can actually do that. And if it is on the high side, I'm not aware of any formal complaint, but I'm going to note this and I'll bring it to the knowledge of my managing director, Adja Adizabala Usman. Then on the second one of a data bank, if I can use that expression, I think that person is spot on. Yes, we have a website, www.nigerianports.gov.ng, where any form of inquiry can be kept pertaining to Nigerian Ports Authority. Each port also has a hotline that you can use to contact us. For Lagos Port Complex, for the benefit of those who are listening, I'll quickly call it. For Lagos Port Complex, that's this as is 0815-879-4394. 0815-879-4394. So if you have issues with us, if you have inquiry, if you have complaints, this is right in my office. We will take your calls and we'll respond. Yes, the secretary might pick it, but I will be duly updated and will respond. So, but going forward, I think there is need for all the agencies to come together. Mr. Osho mentioned something that I want to leverage on. If you submit to customs, you submit to MPA, and we have a central place where an agent can just upload every form of information required in the port. And if I need anything as MPA, I go there, I pick it. Customs can go there, they can pick it. So that we also reduce this, burdensome policy or pressure on our esteemed stakeholders, where they are running from one agency to the other. I think we need to have a defined maritime or port community domain where there could be a data bank for vital information across board, and anybody can just go there and pick it up. I'll also note that, and it will be part of the updates I'll be giving my executive management. And if the explanations are not satisfactory enough, please still feel free to reach out to us, and we are most willing to answer your questions. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. We have come to the end of this, this webinar. There are 10 things that we would like to take away from it very quickly. Number one, that we require transparency on all sides. Number two, that we should make complaints. And here I would like to raise that there's the Port Service Support Portal, which is meant to provide something that links all the agencies. Unfortunately, we don't have Nigeria Shippers Council here. We'll make sure we rectify that against a next webinar, that we should attempt to ensure that trade is simplified. Number 3. Number 4, that we have integrity-based supply chains. That's number 4. Number 5, that we have SOPs that work and SOPs that have been audited and checked that they're actually efficient. Number 6, that we should have continuous engagement of the stakeholders. Number 7, that engagement should lead to a shared understanding of the standard operating procedures. Number 8, that we should join the collective action initiative. And in your invitation, there was actually a link to a website where we said, please share your challenges. Please take that user survey. It is anonymous. You don't need to put down your name or number or anything. Number 9, we need a place where we can have both regulatory and compliance information in one location. And finally, we need a central place where users of the ports, importers and exporters, can upload their information once, and all the agencies can access what they need out of it. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, join me in thanking our panelists today. Mr. Martin Benderson, who has joined us from Denmark, from the Maritime Anti-Corruption Network. Thank you. Mrs. Olotu, who is the ports manager for the Western Ports in Lagos. We thank you very much, madam. Mr. Michael Osho from Platinum Shipping, we thank you very much for your contributions. And let me underscore and specially thank the Deputy Comptroller, Nigerian Customs Service, Comptroller Nadi, for the time he has taken and all the explanations that he has given us here today. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, this would not have been possible without you. We thank you very much indeed for what you have contributed to today's webinar. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you.